I've always known the taste of dirt, the sting of grass, and the crush of desperate fingers. That's what it means to be me, 42 stitches of leather, holding air and stories between the seams. They call me a pigskin, though I haven't been made from that in decades. Still, the name sticks, like the sweat that seeps into my pores on autumn evenings when the stadium lights create halos in the mist. Home was a high school field in Burlington, Vermont. Not the glorious NFL arenas you might imagine, but a place where dreams were just as big, just as fragile. For years, I watched the seasons change from my spot in the equipment room. The summer heat that made my leather expand, the crisp fall air that tightened me just right, the bitter winter when I'd be stored away waiting. But mostly, I remember his hands, Michael's hands. How they trembled the first time Coach placed me there. A freshman quarterback with eyes too wide and shoulders too narrow for the jersey they'd given him. Too small, they whispered on the sidelines. I heard everything, always have. 4 years, I lived for Fridays. 4 years of practice throws on Monday afternoons when the field was empty, except for him, launching me into the air again and again until his fingertips bled. Just one more, he'd whisper, and I believed him, every time. We spoke a language only we understood, the slight adjustment of his grip before a deep pass, the way he'd tap my laces twice before every important play. His father never missed a game, sitting in the same spot, third row, always alone. I'd catch glimpses of him as I spiraled through the air, a man with a face weathered like old leather, hands stuffed into the pockets of the same faded jacket eyes, following his son with a hunger I couldn't understand then. Dad was all-state back in '92, Michael told me once, while polishing my surface after a muddy practice. He didn't need to say more. I felt the weight in those words, heavier than any tackle I'd endured. By senior year, Michael's hands had grown sure, strong. College scouts started appearing, clipboard figures on the periphery, nodding as I danced from his fingertips to receivers' waiting arms. "You're going to take us all the way," Coach would say, meaning the state championship, but also meaning something more, a way out. A ticket to somewhere bigger than this small town with its diner where everyone knew your order and your failures. It was the semi-final game when everything changed, November 12th. I remember because the air had that particular bite that comes just before the first snow. The scoreboard read 17-14, yes, trailing, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. I felt Michael's heartbeat through his palms, quick but steady. We'd been in tighter spots before. The snap was clean. I felt his fingers find their familiar places on my laces. Then, bodies colliding. A linebacker, 200 pounds of determined muscle, broke through the line. I never saw his face, only felt the impact as Michael went down, still clutching me against his chest as if I could protect him somehow. The crack didn't sound like bones breaking. It was softer, wetter, something tearing that shouldn't tear. I bounced away as he fell. From where I lay on the sideline, I could see his father standing now, that stoic mask finally broken. The stadium went quiet, in that way crowds do when they sense something irreversible has happened. ACL, MCL. Those letters meant nothing to me then. I learned them later, overhearing doctors in sterile rooms. Words like reconstruction and recovery time and scholarship status floated around while I sat unused in his bedroom, gathering dust for the first time since we'd met. Spring came, and with it, physical therapy sessions where Michael would sometimes bring me along, turning me over in his hands while waiting for his name to be called. His grip had changed, hesitant now, as if I might break, or he might. The calluses that had once marked his fingertips began to fade. I missed the smell of fresh-cut grass, the sound of cleats digging into turf. But most of all, I missed the certainty of his touch, the way he used to hold me like we were extensions of each other. His room changed, too. College acceptance letters appeared, then disappeared. A different kind of letter came, revoking athletic scholarships that had once seemed guaranteed. His father stopped wearing the faded jacket, started working double shifts at the plant outside town. "It's fine," Michael would tell his mother when she hovered in his doorway, concern etching deeper lines around her eyes. Community college is a smart choice anyway. But at night, when the house grew quiet, he'd sometimes pick me up and just hold me, staring at the ceiling where glow-in-the-dark stars he'd pasted as a child still faintly shone. I remember the smell of the liniment he used on his knee, sharp, medicinal, a scent that made my leather wrinkle. The whir of the electric heating pad, the soft click of the brace he wore for months afterward. The way rain would make him wince, his body becoming a weather vane for storms I couldn't see. What haunts me most is the phantom sensation, the memory of flying from his hands in perfect spirals that would never happen again. Sunlight catching my surface as I rotated through crisp autumn air. The clean, certain thud of landing in receiver's waiting arms. The roar that would follow. His smile afterward. Quick, almost shy, as if surprised by his own ability. 3 years passed. I lived in a cardboard box in his closet, taken out occasionally, held briefly, then returned to darkness. College textbooks replaced playbooks on his desk. Business administration, accounting, practical things. Then came the day of the yard sale. His mother's idea, clearing out before the move to the smaller house across town. I felt hands lifting my box, carrying me into spring sunlight that felt foreign on my faded leather. "How much?" A man's voice, unfamiliar. "That's not..." Michael began, then stopped. I felt him lift me from the box, his touch still recognizable after all this time. "My son's starting quarterback this fall, freshman team." The man's voice again, pride evident in every syllable. A long silence followed. I felt Michael's fingers tighten slightly, then relax. $10 seems fair," I heard him say finally, his voice carefully neutral. New hands took me then, smaller, unsure. The boy couldn't have been more than 14, all elbows and Adam's apple, eyes darting nervously toward his father for approval. "Go long," Michael said suddenly, stepping back onto the lawn. The boy hesitated, then ran, sneakers scuffing on concrete. Michael's hands adjusted one last time around my laces, that familiar double tap. And then I was airborne, spinning in a perfect arc that defied the years of disuse, the injury, everything. The boy caught me against his chest with an oof of surprise. His father applauded, but I felt only Michael's eyes following my flight, something in them both breaking and healing at once. "That's how you throw a perfect spiral," he told the boy, voice steady now. "Take care of that ball. It knows things." Years have passed since then. I live in another town now, another room. The boy, Thomas, has grown into his hands. He's not Michael, never will be. His touch is different, his rhythm unique. Sometimes, though, when the stadium lights create those same halos in the mist, I remember. The leather of my skin holds all these memories, the triumph, the loss, the moment of letting go. I've been clutched in victory and dropped in defeat. I've tasted dirt and sky. I've known the perfect moment of release, that split second when everything is possible and nothing is certain. They say objects don't feel. They say we're just things, possessions to be used and discarded. But we absorb the fingerprints of every life that touches us, carry the weight of hopes pressed into our surfaces. We witness. Some nights, when Thomas sleeps, I wonder if Michael ever thinks of me, if he remembers the promises whispered on empty practice fields. I wonder if his knee still aches before it rains. The truth we silent watchers know is this. It's not the victories they'll remember in the end, but the feel of leather against skin, the smell of grass in autumn, the sound of a father's rare applause. The perfect spiral that continues long after the hands that launched it have moved on to hold other things, build other dreams. I was there. I am witness. I remain.